We're back in due process talking about the environment and the law. There's a couple things we want to get to in the remaining minutes that we have here. Leaving household cleaning solvents aside for the moment, what should people do when they're about to buy a home? We know typically the broker will say to them, get an inspector, but the inspector is looking at the condition of the roof and things like that. So just give me some thoughts for prospective homeowners.
I think they could get a fuller inspection. There are people who come in and do just a broad brush type inspection, and then there are those who do something a little bit more complete. I think they need to get full disclosures, as Jennifer was talking about, from the prior owners and ensure that they do. And you have to really look and depend upon somebody who's really good to determine whether or not there's prior water losses, to determine whether or not there's even mold, painted over mold you can find in basements of homes.
You know, these home inspectors are not licensed in Michigan.
Is that right?
I could be your home inspector, and I don't know what I'm looking for, so that's scary. I would not use a home inspector that was referred to me by my realtor, because your realtor has a certain
vested interest in.
They want to use, and they've got a list that they're going to pass out of people that they have had success with in selling their homes.
Right.
Whether or not those inspectors, and I've even heard the phrase, I'm a deal killer, because that inspector goes in there and is doing such a thorough job that the sale doesn't take place. Well, they don't want to use those home inspectors, so I would use someone who is outside of your real estate agent. And there's something that I don't know if a lot of homeowners are aware of, but there are limitations of liabilities that these homeowners are having, that these inspectors are having their homeowners sign, so that if they do a negligent job, now, these are non-licensed people like me who could go in, not know what I do, and not find problems in your home.
And they make you sign off liability?
Limiting liability.
But see, some of them, the older companies did not. I've seen some that don't. I've recently seen limits of liability.
Well, most of your home inspectors aren't environmentalists either. You know, they don't have the indoor air quality training to go through a home and say, okay, I can tell you what type of mold's over here, or I can tell you what the toxins are in the air over in this part of the house. They don't have that.
Well, that doesn't make any sense, because the most dangerous thing that can happen, aside from the black mold, is carbon monoxide, the backdrafts from your furnace and your fireplaces and things like that. So if you don't have an air quality specialist in there, what good is the inspection?
Well, a good home inspector will have clues. He will look at the heating and cooling system to look for signs of combustion problems, which then would prompt him to suggest that a heating and cooling specialist be brought in. A good home inspector will have a moisture meter. It's a $300 item, can be placed on walls to look for surface moisture. If there's moisture, there will be mold, and a good home inspector would then refer that buyer to an air testing firm to determine whether or not there is a problem.
But these people are not licensed, so we're hoping they have the proper equipment and enough integrity to say, this is what I have to tell these people. But as you say, they're deal killers in the business, so the broker's not going to get that home sold if you find too much mold. What about asbestos? Is it no longer a problem in our area in Michigan?
Well, it should, and a good home inspector will point out when there are old heating and cooling systems that still have asbestos wrapping, and it should be addressed. Friable or fraying asbestos can still be a health concern.
Well, the tiles in the basement tiles are frequently, in older homes, are asbestos-based. And I just had a house where...
You mean the ceiling tiles?
No, the floor tiles.
Really?
I just had a case where not only did the people have stachybotrys, and the owners had not disclosed that the house had prior water losses, but then they were trying to mitigate their damages and make things better by waterproofing their basement. And the people who came in to do the waterproofing dug up and chopped up old tiles and caused asbestos to contaminate the rest of the home. So these people had mold, these people had an inspector who didn't find prior water losses, they had a seller who didn't disclose, and now they have asbestos and they have very sick children.
You know, a lot has to do with what the buyer is willing to do through the inspection process. Does the buyer just want to spend $250 and get a straightforward inspection, or does he want to spend $2,000 and have the entire house evaluated?
It's a straightforward inspection.
No, I have no objection to a buyer doing that, but I think the buyer, you know, has to be willing to pay that money and get the right experts on board.
At some point in time, in the not too distant future, that has to be part of the cost of the home.
Yeah.
because it seems so vitally important. I mean, right now we're suffering through the anthrax thing, and maybe by the time this show airs, we will have determined where it came from. But I mean, there's an airborne problem.
With spores.
And spores. And you guys are involved in this area, and then hopefully we've aroused some interest in some people. We've heightened their awareness, which is what we normally do here. But I'd like to get you people to come back and talk about some more of the problems, such as the solvents, the cleaning fluids, the things that people use to clean their rugs themselves, and things such as that. So we all come back?
Of course.
Thank you so much for appearing. I really appreciate it. And as a special gift to you, we have these used mugs.